So, you find me today on the Northampton arm of the Grand Union. You see, because it is winter and therefore the amount which I'm going to be cruising is naturally going to go down quite considerably, what I thought I would do is have a little look at some of the sort of lesser used chunks of the canal system and see if I could pair my walks up with old photographs taken, upwards of 100 years ago, to have a look at sort of then and now. So I'm going to start with the Northampton arm, because as a stretch of canal, its existence is gloriously incompetent. So this arm goes down to the River Nen in Northampton, which then turns into the River Nene in Peterborough. Weirdly, it's the same river with the same name that is spelt the same, but the name comes from two different sources. So Nen and Nene are in fact two different names for the same river, even though they are spelt the same. In any case, and around about sort of 1560 or so, it was suggested that it would be a good idea to make this river navigable. And what followed was then 200 years of faffing. So 1567 was the first survey to see whether it could be made navigable. By 1630-something, the River Nen, they decided, could be made navigable with 33 locks. And it took until 1760-something for it actually to be opened. And that's the river, not this. This is the arm from the Grand Union at Gayton down to Northampton, the River Nen at Northampton. Now, when they suggested that it would be a good idea to link these two, and they're only 4 miles apart, the Canal Company were not at all keen. You can see that there's a lock here and a lock ahead of us. In fact, these are locks 1 and 2 of 17. It's a big old drop down from the Grand Union to the Nen, and the Grand Union were not unreasonably concerned that the Nen were going to steal their water. So they only agreed to a link if they could sort of meet in the middle via a short length of railway, of all things. And in fact, when the link opened in 1805, it was all railway. This canal was not here in 1805. It took until 1815 for them to stop faffing around with chunks of railway and actually build a canal. And even then, the canal was gloriously unsuccessful. It was successful enough until 1820 or so, when the commissioners of the River Nen, for no reason that I can adequately explain, decided they were going to force all of the boat owners to transfer their cargo from canal boats to river boats at the bottom, which was shooting themselves astonishingly in the foot. And let's leave that story off to one side for a moment, because we've come to our first lock and our first set of photographs. You can see this is a private house, but it used to be the lock keeper's cottage. You can also see here, if I stand back a bit, that we've got a hut, and you can see the lock. Now, I'm going to show some photographs from the time. Walking down to lock number 2, we come across the site of our next photograph, which I'll put up in a minute. In the old photograph, you'll see one of the old style signs warning motor vehicles about the maximum weight. That sign is gone, but otherwise this site is pretty much exactly as it used to be. Here we are, approaching lock number 5. It may very well be extremely windy, so I'm sorry if we're getting wind noise on the microphone. I'm just out with my mobile phone, so this isn't a particularly sophisticated video. However, one thing you will see from the old photographs is that these used to be open cast beams with holes in the end. They are still metal hollow beams, but they've welded up the ends. And then the other thing you'll see at Lock 5 in particular, and this is a photograph from the 1970s we're going to look at, but we can see this lift bridge, which used to be a farmer's, and may actually still be a farmer's track from one field to another. Has to be said, it doesn't look wildly operational, but I shall go across to the other side and we shall see. Let's go and have a look. So coming over to this side, this bridge is thoroughly non-operational to the extent that it has been bolted to the ground, and also it doesn't go anywhere. It does go somewhere on that side, but no longer on this side. And looking at the photograph in 1970, it looks like it was non-operational by 1970 as well. So let's carry on down and see if there's anything else interesting we can find. Now then, before we get to the next site of photographs, I was telling you about the somewhat unfortunate story of the Nen navigation. So this was opened in 1815. In 1827, the commissioners of the river decided to shoot themselves in the foot by not allowing canal boats onto the river, despite the fact that there is a clear navigational link to the river. And in 1840, which is some 13 years later, the Blisworth to Northampton railway line was opened, and the fat £1,000 a year they were getting in tolls more or less turned into nothing. And that could very well have been that. There are countless canals across the UK which in the 1850s and 1860s stopped being profitable, staggered on for a year or two, and then collapsed. But weirdly, the trade on the upper Nen, where it turns into the Nene, was pretty strong. And so this section of Canal and the the Northampton section of the Nen, they maintained, basically for the benefit of the upper sections of the river beyond Peterborough. And so they have survived. And as you would have seen from some of the photographs that I've been showing you, they are a very, very early example of the use of the canal for leisure purposes. So a lot of the photographs that I've shown from the 60s show leisure boats. And as a result, this whole line has survived, which is rather splendid. Well, here we are looking back up the canal from Lock 10. And if I put up the photograph now, you can see this lock being mended. It's a bit of a grainy photograph, but you can see at the end of the lock in the distance a swing bridge. This is the swing bridge now. It's not terribly bridgy, is it? And there is actually a notice on it from the CRT giving operating instructions, which don't appear to start with first build yourself a bridge. And you can see the reason for it on this side, where you can see both the bridge deck and the bridge frame just sitting here waiting to be reinstalled in due course. Although it has to be said, this is to enforce the public right-of-way, which goes through that thicket. So I'm going to say there's not a huge hurry to reinstate the public right-of-way. Another thing which has changed, there used to be a building there. If you have a look in the photograph, let's have a look back at the photograph. There you go. There used to be a building there, and there didn't used to be the M1 motorway. So there's an A road just in front of it, but that up there is the M1, which this canal goes under. Now I don't think I'm going to go under the M1 because it's getting later on in the afternoon, and once you get past these three locks, there's then a sort of 2-mile walk, which is a lovely walk, but I don't really have time to do today, in towards Northampton. So I think I shall stop here and enjoy a few more photographs of the Northampton Arm before I bring this video to an end. Okay, and thus ends my little tour down the Northampton Arm, with photographs of yesteryear in there as well. If you like this format of video, please do comment and tell me, or if you'd rather I did something else, tell me that too. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and subscribe. Goodbye.